Thank you for downloading episode 371 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. This week, we have POTUS in the Middle East, Leo's brother, Charlie Hustle, castrating the hog. You landed where? For what? Don't wake Congress members. Comey is an idiot. Consumer confidence gets shaky, and the U.S. credit rating takes a hit. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, Pike County Commissioner Ken Poland.
Hey there. Late on Friday night when we're recording.
It is damn near Saturday morning.
I know, it is.
Yeah, we both had long days. Friday started off setting up for Shepherd's Rest Gala. Of course, I'm a board member with the Shepherd's Rest, the women's shelter in Paulding County. Then out to Alabama to work, trying to finish up a job because there's a technical issue from the manufacturer, not from Dr. Cool. Out there, which is a 3-hour round trip. Get in at between 9 and 10 o'clock with a lovely dinner of Wendy's. And now I've got poor Ken up past his bedtime.
I know, it is past my bedtime.
Yeah, he got on the phone. His wife's already yelling at him to go to bed.
She did. I told her, okay, baby, I will.
She didn't say go to bed. She's come to bed.
Nah, she's been sick for like 3 days, so I may sleep in the spare bedroom tonight.
Yeah, I was with Connie at the doctor. She had the flu, and the doctor, it was funny. She was from Tennessee, and Connie goes, well, you need to stay away from your wife. She goes, hey, he won't even kiss me. She goes, kissing's worse than sex. So, I don't know if you saw this, but the famous alligator, Morris, from Happy Gilmore, has died.
I didn't remember Morris from Happy Gilmore. I remember the movie, but not Morris.
Oh, he's the one who took Chubb's hand.
Okay.
He's been in a bunch of different TV shows and movies. They figure he was 80 years old. He was rescued as a backyard pet in Los Angeles.
And he lived to be 80 years old. Wow.
Nearly 11 feet long and 640 pounds. So he was a well-fed boy. Of course, being a reptile, he had no idea he was a star.
Very true.
But no, that was just an interesting story. But prolific actor Joe Don Baker died at 89.
I know. I didn't remember his name right away. You had to tell me. I had to look it up.
Yeah, but if you look him up, you know exactly who he is.
Yeah,
I mean, he was in Cape Fear.
Yeah,
a couple Bond flicks, early and TV early on. He's just one of those working actors that was kind of in, just an ancillary character in a lot of things that you see that if anybody pulls up his picture, like, oh yeah, that guy.
We drove across Cape Fear one time coming back from D.C. We took the eastern route down the coast for some unknown reason, and then got somewhere in North Carolina and started driving back, west along. I guess it's like through the swamps and everything, but it was where that Cape Fear movie was filmed at. And we had the worst storm come up, and it started lightning, and the wind was blowing. And I remember my wife's grandmother was with us, and she said she was ready to go if the Lord was calling. But it was the same like Cape Fear. I guess that's where that whole movie was filmed, up in that North Carolina region, inland just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it gets the name from how treacherous the waters are there.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it was he was in the 91 remake. 91 was a remake, right? Cape Fear was originally in the 60s?
Yeah, right.
Something like that. So you put in there Trump said Taylor Swift is no longer hot.
Oh, yeah. So he started last week. He started picking on Bruce Springsteen, said Bruce Springsteen, what did he say? He was like a dried up, but like a prune or something. But then on Friday, he said, this isn't a true social post on Friday. Trump came for Kamala Harris's, because Taylor Swift, she loved Kamala Harris and it kind of stumped for her. But he said, has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?
She never was.
I don't know about that, but
I know I wouldn't use the word hot. I mean, she's cute, she's goofy looking,
she's attractive. Yeah, I mean, she's got a spunky little personality. Yeah, I mean, but
it's not my type of music, but yeah, I mean, she's a prolific songwriter. I'm tired of seeing her after she started dating Kelsey.
Do you think Trump actually puts this stuff online?
Yes,
I think he does. I really think he
there's not a media educated person in the entire world that would write that. Maybe a drunken 12-year-old.
I think he went to Saudi Arabia last week, met with leaders of Saudi Arabia. Where else did he go? Egypt, Syria. He met with all these, leaders in the Middle East and did all this stuff. Qatar. And then a day later, he's talking about Taylor Swift's not hot.
Well, and he was also saying that Bruce Springsteen was not talented, never liked his music. I'm like, first of all, I don't like the boss personally either. He did some songs some years ago about 37 shots, and it's about a police shooting. He's always been a lefty. Born in the USA was a protest song, and he was pissed that Reagan was using it. He's always been that guy. But you also can't deny that he's extremely talented. Now, maybe he's past his prime, and I'm sure he is. But to say that you never liked his music, no, his music's fantastic.
I guess. I was never... Yeah, I mean, there's a couple good songs. I've never been a Bruce Springsteen fan. But I'm not a Taylor Swift fan either, so, take that for what it's worth.
What was the song that Courtney Cox got her start on in his video? Was it Dancing in the Dark?
I don't know. See, I don't know
something
much,
like that.
I don't know much music like that.
Yeah, it was a video, and Courtney Cox was a kid. She was probably 18 years old, and in this music video, she gets pulled on stage by Bruce, and they're doing very white people 80s dancing. Elbows in, snapping your and moving your hips and kind of snapping your fingers. The very quintessential white person I have no rhythm dance. That's what they were doing. But yeah, it was a very, very young Courtney Cox. It got her start in that video, and I think it was Dancing in the Dark, if I recall correctly. But it was that's 40 years ago.
Well, just remember that Trump said Taylor Swift was ugly, and Bruce Springsteen was wrinkly. So,
well, he is wrinkly. I mean, I wouldn't call Taylor Swift ugly. I'm certainly hit by saturation point with her during the football season.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were still dating her and Travis Kelce because she's
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean I guess we'll pick it back up this year, but she's gone off the map. I mean, she's been out of the limelight for quite a while now, ever since football season.
Well, no, it was every time he got a 1-yard reception, she put her hands up and go, oh, look, he got the ball.
Yeah, right.
That guy threw the ball and he caught the ball.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 3rd and 9. So speaking of Trump's visit to the Middle East, that was big news last week, and it was, if you're objectively humorous,
yes,
it was
objectively, right? You got to be objective.
Awesome. It was awesome, and just watching the lips just melt. Now there were a bunch of former Biden staffers that were lamenting, why couldn't we work with somebody who moves this fast? But he goes to Saudi Arabia, secured $600 billion in investments. He removed sanctions from Syria because they have a new regime, and says he wants to give them the opportunity to thrive.
Yep.
Further isolates Iran. Every stop he's talking about Iran. And people think that the Saudis, the Qataris, are in like the Iranians. They do not. They are different people. The Persians and the Arabs do not like each other.
Yep.
Now they will coordinate with each other. The old Muslim saying is, me and my brother against my cousin. Me and my cousin against the world. So basically saying that within each other they don't like Iran, but versus other entities they would partner with them. And what this does is it really isolates Iran, because every stop he made, he was going to places that are legitimizing Israel. It further isolating Iranian-backed Houthis, Iranian-backed actions in Gaza, and working towards peace in Gaza. And it was his policy, where we were talking before the show. My opinion is peace through strength, but his is peace through profit.
Yeah, it really is.
Let's all make money.
Yeah, it's I heard Eric Erickson talking about it on the radio sometime this week that Jimmy Carter thought that he should be able to go to the Middle East and tell everybody how they should live and be like America and spread democracy and make sure. And then I guess who was after Carter? Ronald Reagan kind of stepped back from that a little bit, and George H.W. Bush did. And then Biden comes back around, and again, Biden's whole policy was, we want to go over there and tell people they have to use, their preferred pronouns. They have to do this and that. And he was trying to make everybody look like he wanted the world to look. And Trump's just going over there and wanting those countries to prosper, hoping, I think, if they prosper, they'll be more like the United States, which I think is probably a good policy at the end of the day.
But the reception he received at each of his stops was amazing.
All getting better. Even the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia he lets women drive now, which is unheard of for Saudi Arabia.
Big mistake. Yeah, big mistake.
Well, we're not. Point being,
as you're changing tires.
Yeah, the point being, they're becoming more. I hate to say progressive, but they are moving more towards more individual rights and freedoms in these countries. And I think as they prosper, they'll continue to do that. So, I think it's really smart on Trump's part to continue to do what he did this week and meet with these countries. Why would you not at the end of the day?
Is the carrot and the stick.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're in the fold, you get all the love and all the sunshine in the world. And that's what he's showing Iran, is we will bring you into the fold.
Yeah, but you got to have decent.
You have to give up your nuclear weapon ambitions. We'll bring you into the fold. We don't want to change your culture. We want to make you prosperous.
Yeah, because you're not going to change the culture of Saudi Arabia. And you're not going to change the culture of Syria. But I think as you continue those countries, they get better and they get more capitalistic in nature. I think they just move our way. But it's not going to be overnight. Nobody can go there and tell the people to start doing whatever. And look at America. Look at the craziness we do over here, right? We let boys swim in girls competition, so we're not really anyone to be preaching at somebody else.
Well, Qatar gave us a 747.
There was a lot of discussion on that this week. Do you think that was good or not? And they didn't give it to us. They gave it to Trump because it's going with his Trump library, and then he's going to get to use it after he leaves office.
He's not going to know. He's not going to heaven. He's going to the Air Force.
Well, but then they're going to transition it over to the Trump library after he leaves office, which will be his personal use.
It'll be his personal use, but it'll be just like Air Force One's at the Reagan library.
Yeah, but I think they're talking about Trump will actually use this plane after he gets done. Regardless, it's kind of, I don't know. I heard of both sides of this.
I think it's a thumb in the eye to Boeing.
Well, the plane was amazing too. Did you see that thing? It was huge. Yeah, it's a huge plane.
It's a 747, but
yeah, it's double decker. It's enormous. It's a lot better than the current plane.
But it's a thumb in the eye to Boeing, which has been delayed. Yeah,
they've been trying to order this plane since 2019, I think.
Trump renegotiated the deal in his first administration.
Yeah, and how can you not build a plane in 5 or 6 years for the president, not Trump, not Biden, but for the president,
for the country?
Yeah, It's amazing that Boeing cannot get that plane out. It's like embarrassing.
It really is. And then Qatar's like, here, have a plane.
Yep, and they just
it's a $400 million airplane.
But Qatar is a pretty terrible nation, though. I mean, if you listen to what those guys do, they contribute more money to public universities in the United States than any country in the world. And it's really to change the culture of these universities. And so let's don't think they're a good country. They're a terrible country.
Well, they're also a strategic ally. That's where any peace talks between the Israelis and Hezbollah happen. We operate bases out of Qatar. So they're a strategic ally. Are they friends with us? No, they're strategic allies.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look, I don't trust the Saudis. I don't trust them further than I can throw them. But that's neither here nor there. But this policy of peace through profit is where we're going. And I don't remember which country it was. He was escorted by cyber trucks, which is hilarious.
I know, that is pretty funny. There were tons of them.
And I don't know if it was purposely a middle finger to the American left, or if it was, oh, we know you like Elon. Look, we're going to buy a bunch of his trucks. And it was also a demonstration that we're moving away from oil being our sole source of income.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think of that angle, but it really is.
It was very symbolic of that. Is we're willing to show, electric trucks, because gas in United Arab Emirates is pennies a gallon. They have so much oil that they're so rich that gas is nothing. Yeah, if you want to own a supercar as a member of the UAE. You run it out of the desert as fast as you can, burn as much gas as you want, go and fill it up. $20.
Very nice.
But his work to isolate Iran, I think, is very interesting, especially once Iran sees that Syria is being brought into the fold. That's a big ally that Iran just lost. So Iran's going to be looking at the Houthis like, do we really want to keep supplying these animals to keep firing at shipping ineffectually, and just spending money that they don't have anymore. All right, so Pope Leo's brother is funny as hell.
Pope Leo is pretty funny too. Did you see him playing tennis this week? It was either tennis or pickleball, but he sort of kind of got down this week and relaxed and had fun. And you don't see a lot of popes do that. I always think of a pope as, very reserved. But he had actually a lot of fun. He was cutting up this week, but his brother's a whole different dimension.
Well, Leo's also 69 years old. He's not 89.
I know, but you still don't. I don't have this picture of popes at any age sort of doing what Leo did this week. But
there's also a picture of him eating a hot dog and having a beer at a White Sox game back in 2000 or something like that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this. It feels like these popes age like our presidents do. So it'll be interesting to see how long he stays this, upbeat spirit, and what that means to the Catholic religion. Does he bring more people in, or more younger people in, or what direction he's going to take the church? It'll be very interesting to see.
Well, Louis Prevost,
his brother,
called Nancy Pelosi a drunken C-word.
His brother's MAGA too, right? He's not.
Well, right, but
his brother's hardcore MAGA.
When your brother is the head of the Catholic Church,
though?
Well, I think it was before, but he probably should have. He probably should have cleaned that up, because you can't have the brother.
Nobody expected him to become pope. I don't think. I mean,
I don't think he did.
No, and I don't think it's like his brother said, "Hey, I need to go clean my Twitter account up just because my brother went to the conclave." I mean, I don't think he knew. I think this came as such a big shock to everybody.
And look, I am not saying this dude is wrong. I'm just saying, and I think he's agreed he's going to dial it back a little bit, because you can't go calling Catholics the C word.
No, I mean, his brother's going to probably call him up one day and tell him to calm down a little bit.
How does that phone call go?
Hey, I wonder what he calls his brother when he calls. Does he call him?
No, it's by his first name. By his given name.
I would imagine, but who knows?
Hey, it's
They don't call
the same
him the Holy
thing.
Father?
No, I mean you may give reverence, but then after that, it's your brothers.
I mean, I make my wife call me the Honorable Commissioner from Pike County.
The Honorable Commissioner for Pike County.
I'm joking, by the way.
Well, she knows honorable's not right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
what their conversations are like, though, because I know they probably still talk.
What does the president's brother call him? He doesn't say Mr. President or anything else. He's like, "Hey, man, how you doing? How's the job?" You know, it's obviously if you're in public, you say Mr. President and all that stuff, and just like Leo's brother, if he was in public, would be Holy Father or whatever. But if they're on a private phone call, yeah, you're brothers. You've been brothers all your lives. You're not going to start calling him Holy Father or Leo or anything else. You're going to call him by his given name, the name he had, when you guys were growing up.
Point being, his brother's going to have to be controlled a little bit. It sounds like he's going to have to calm down a little bit with the political stuff.
Yeah, and look, it's known that Louis is further right as far as most political people feel than Leo, but it's also believed that Leo is further right than his predecessor, than Francis.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
Speaking of redemption after death, Pete Rose has been reinstated.
Yeah, I totally missed his story last week, too. So he's been taken off the Major League Baseball's permanently ineligible list. The league announced
along with Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, so how old is Rose? Oh, he died.
He's dead.
I forgot. He died at 83 last September. Golly.
Yeah, we talked about on the show that he had done his sentence. It was a lifetime ban, and it went up for his lifetime is up.
And
baseball,
he'll be put into the Hall of Fame at this point, won't he? Don't you think?
Yeah, and I think 27 is the earliest he can go. Because now starts his time, the 2 years,
So he has to wait 2 years after he's taken off the ineligible list.
Right. Along with Shoeless Joe Jackson, which they can never prove that Shoeless Joe actually threw a game.
Yeah, right. And that was one of the 17 individuals actually there were 17 deceased individuals impacted by last week's decision. 8 of those are part of that Black Sox scandal that you're referring to, including Shoeless Joe Jackson. Wow.
And look, Joe Jackson was illiterate, and they bullied him into confessing. He didn't really understand what he was confessing to. The story goes that he refused to take the money, and one of the players kicked his door open, threw $5,000 on the floor, and shut the door. And he tried to go to the owner of the White Sox, and Kaminsky, oddly enough, was the owner's name at the time, and tell him what's happening, and Kaminsky wouldn't take the meeting.
Wow.
Because back then, players were so much beneath the owner that you don't dare speak to me.
Yeah, see, I didn't realize this. So Rob Manfred is the MLB commissioner, but he said that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual. So I don't like that. I mean, I thought Rose should have been in the Hall of Fame 30 years ago, but it's kind of bad that he has to pass away to come off the list and now go into the Hall of Fame.
Look, nobody played harder than Charlie Hustle.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, by the way, there was a story that I read about Joe Jackson, who owned a hardware store at some point, and Ty Cobb came in, and Joe just waited on him. And Ty says, "Don't you know who I am?" He goes, "I know who you are, Ty. I just didn't think you wanted anybody to know that you knew who I am."
Right.
And that's how he died. He died in shame.
Yep.
And Pete Rose did to a certain degree is he was the hardest playing player I've ever seen. Of course, I never saw Ty Cobb with his hard slides and all that stuff, but Pete Rose would lose his helmet, go sliding in head first, would throw an elbow and shoulder into a catcher and knock the ball loose so he could score. He played with reckless abandon, and he never bet against his team. And I know he broke the rules. I understand that. He never bet against his team.
I know. That's why I thought he should have been in a long time ago.
And he was too much of a competitor to ever truly take a dive. He would never purposely lose. It didn't matter how much money was at stake.
No, not at all.
But did he bet on baseball? Yes. Did he bet on his team? Yes. Did he ever bet on his team to lose? Hell no. That wasn't the way Pete Rose was wired. And when I was growing up, that's one of the players that my father pointed to because when I was a kid, you and I are the same age. By then, Pete was a manager for the most part. But Dad would point out how hard he played the game and say that's the fire that you need to take into it when you're playing. Yes, have a good time, but you want to win, and that's competitor right there.
Very true.
All right, tough guy, David Hogg, improperly elected.
Did you see this guy? By the way, when you say tough guy, this guy's like 5'5" and weighs about 118 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, but he loves to bite his lower lip and stare like he's a tough dude. Maybe little noodle arm, little weenie.
I know. Yeah, this was the strangest thing. So he was elected. What position did he? So the Democratic National Committee,
co-chair.
It's just like we've been talking about with the state GOP party. They're having their convention in a couple of weeks. With Josh McCoon running against David Cross, all these state parties have their state conventions, but the Democrats and the Republicans have a national convention, and they elected this guy. It was a couple months ago. Is like you said, is co-chair of the party.
Yeah, several co-chairs. The election was so weird. It says you have to vote for.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was the whole DEI thing. Right.
One woman, one person of color, one non-binary person. I'm like, the whole process was it if it weren't for the fact that I saw it happen in front of my face because I saw the announcement, I would have thought it was something out of the Babylon Bee.
Yeah,
it is absolutely. It sounded like satire. It sounded like Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live was actually funny. But they're saying that Hogg was improperly elected to this position.
Yeah, because
of course David Hogg
is other people.
Yeah, Hogg is famous for being able to duck. He survived the Major Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland shooting. That was in 18. He started the March for Our Lives, anti-gun thing, got a full ride to Harvard based on just being a D-bag.
He's a total douche.
I mean, just first of all, I'm tired of this persona he's putting. It's him, Greta Thunberg, and all that stuff. This yelling in the camera and looking tough. Like, look, you little autistic children, shut up. Like, Hogg, you're not tough. You're not. No one's afraid of you. I'm a right winger. I'm a gun guy. I'm not afraid of you. You don't strike fear into me. And I'm not talking about physical. I'm talking about political. Because you're a laughing stock. No one takes you seriously. Of course, I would say the same thing about Pajama Boy, but he's our senator.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, it was so funny that DNC kicked this guy out. Now, part of it had to do with he came in guns a-blazing, said he was going to go after Democrat incumbents that were sort of like people in Georgia do, but he came in and said he was going to go after Democrat incumbents that he didn't like, and they were going to raise money against them. You really can't do that when you become a leadership role, and I think some of that probably irritated the
that absolutely did.
Also.
You're talking about moneymakers like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi.
He said he was going to go after some people like that. So I'm pretty sure a few phone calls were made and they enforced this rule. Now, I think it's been appealed or there's got to be a final vote on it. But I think they're going to kick us. I think they're going to kick his little tail out, his little skinny.
He's 25 years old. He's a co-chair of the DNC.
I know. But he's got a lot of practice. I mean, this guy's been paraded in front of media for the last 7 years. It's not like he's a newbie 25-year-old. He's been groomed for this particular role.
But it's still, he lacks the gravitas. He lacks the political pull. And for him to come in and say, I'm going to start going after people, no. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't say that.
Yeah, right.
And if he has somebody that's not toeing the line, like, well, some of our members have differing opinions, and that's just something that we have to work out amongst ourselves, because he's a politician. David Hogg isn't smart enough to be a politician. If he was, he would be on a real ballot, not hiding out in the damn DNC. but he's an embarrassment. He got on some podcast, and what he did say was true. He's like, we need to reach out to young people, and look, young men, all they're worried about is getting laid and having fun. Okay. Yeah. I was 18 also. I mean, I remember those days, yeah. I remember being 25. Oddly enough, 25 is when I met my wife, and all that fun came to an end. But, it's hard for me to feel sorry for him because he's such a piece of human feces.
Yeah, he's not a good person at all. Not at all.
All right, so how to get thrown out of the National Guard.
This was a crazy story. I didn't see this, but I know you and your background.
Well, it made its circles around the veterans pages. All right, so Montana National Guard, Black Hawk is on a training mission, and this is very normal for a training mission. You have to maintain so many hours. So you have a pilot, co-pilot, and crew chief. So usually either an officer, warrant officer, and an NCO, or two warrant officers and NCO, or two officers and NCO. Anyway, so they land on private property in Montana on someone's ranch, and go and collect elk sheds. In other words, elk antlers, which apparently are very valuable. They're worth thousands of dollars because people buy them to put up in their ranch houses and stuff like
they're
that.
Very valuable. And they make all kind of different ornaments with them. So they'll make chandeliers with the elk horns. They're very valuable.
Well, this rancher's, I think this is a female rancher who is like 71 years old. Her neighbor calls her and said, "Did you know there's a military helicopter on your ranch?" She's like, "What?" So they started investigating. She calls Fish and Wildlife and everybody else. They start investigating. The first thing that comes out is an apology from the National Guard, the commander and some colonel, saying, "We're very sorry. These are good guys. We don't ruin their careers. We'll issue an official apology, and we'll come out to your ranch and return your property." That didn't fly, so to speak. And look, this is from a military standpoint. This is not funny. Aviation deviations are not funny. Purposeful deviations. Sometimes things happen. We had the story last week or week before of the wrong coordinates going to a National Guard helicopter and landing at the wrong high school. They essentially had the wrong directions. That's a deviation. Understandable. Whoever was responsible got a slap on. Don't do that again. Be more careful. That's not a reason to throw somebody out of the military.
Yeah, right.
Landing on someone's property with the express purpose of stealing their property.
Yep, that's pretty rough.
And right now, these three, and they're all in their 30s. These are not kids. This is not.
Yeah, I mean, they were 30, and 36. They definitely knew what they were doing.
Yeah, so this is not. And I can't imagine when a scenario where you'd have like a 22 and a 23-year-old and an 18-year-old all up there going, "Hey, look at that, let's go get it." No, I don't know what they thought they were. I don't know if they thought they were doing it for profit or if they thought that was really cool. Let me go grab it. It'll look great in our office or what. It doesn't matter. They landed a military bird with the purpose of taking items that did not belong to them.
Yep, very true.
It would be bad enough if this was national forest land, but that'd probably be internal. don't do that again. But if it was this was private. And the fact is, they didn't know it was private property, or if it was national forest land. It doesn't matter. The fact that they didn't know whose property they were landing on, which means they didn't care. So I have no sympathy for these three at all. They should all be reduced to E1 and thrown out with an other than honorable discharge.
Yeah, very true.
Which means no veterans benefits.
Ugh. How long they couldn't serve that long. They were, what, 30? I guess a 36-year-old could have been there for quite a while.
Well, yeah. A 36-year-old could be 18 years in. It depends. If the 36-year-old is an officer, that means he probably commissioned at 24, so that's 12 years in. And we don't know much about these guys other than that there's no disputing what they did. And I think there's other charges coming, because right now they're just charged with trespassing. Oh,
goodness.
And they can get charged by the Guard. And I was corrected, as apparently the National Guard is not subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice unless they are on federal orders. But there are things they can charge them with under the state charter of the Montana National Guard. But, you know,
I think we've all done stupid stuff. I mean, this is pretty dumb, but nah.
Again, stupid stuff at 22.
I know, but I know what these kids are thinking. They were probably like, we're going to fly this down, we're going to pick up this elk horn, and we're going to take off and take it back to base, and everybody's going to laugh at us. But you got to know better being in the military.
It's called military bearing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know what sort of careers these guys have. I don't know if they're full-time or part-time, because there are full-time Guard members. It's called AGR, Active Guard and Reserve. So I don't know if they're full-timers, if they're part-timers. I don't know if they're on annual training or what they were doing. But I do know that whatever their mission was, it did not include landing on somebody else's ranch and stealing their property.
Yeah, right.
And you know, they may not even, well, being in Montana, they should know, but may not have known that elk sheds are considered property. All right, let's get to 8647. Comey's an idiot.
Yes. Good grief. And if anybody doesn't, I've heard this 86 term forever, and it's always meant to me that it's like you're killing something, right? It could be, so I work in a credit card business, and we used to say we're going to 86 a credit card. Well, 86 in a credit card is we're going to kill that credit card. So 86 is just this like synonymous term with doing away with something. And
I've also heard in the corporate world with 86 an employee, which means fire them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, but you use 86 as a way to say we're doing something with something, right? We're getting rid of this person, we're getting rid of this credit card, it's just 86. We're going to 86 this. I don't know where 86 came from, but what was it? Comey was walking down the beach this week, and he shared he's since deleted it, but he shared it on Instagram, and he said, I found these letters in the sand, and it was 8647. And it wasn't just 8647, it was 86 space 47. And it was seashells, and he said it's a cool shell formation on my beach walk, which basically means get rid of 47. Now, you interpret it how you want to, but I think it was very, I honestly, I'm shocked that he did it.
I would say I'm shocked that he did it because he's a lawyer and he should know better. I do not think, I know it's being investigated as a threat, I do not think it was an overt physical threat to the president.
Okay.
And I just don't. I think he more meant like what's his name with the bad rug out of Michigan that wants to impeach Trump. You know what I'm talking about, the Indian guy with the really, really bad toupee.
Right.
Who already wants to impeach President Trump after 120 or 130 days or whatever it is.
No, it's like, what an idiot.
So it's just a slang term for to reject or get rid of. It doesn't, unless, now, of course, being 90s and all that stuff, it said 18747. All right, that's that's an overt threat, because 187, from what I remember, is the radio call for murder.
Yeah, he could have been saying, I mean, who knows what he was thinking, but, I mean, this
No,
is a
it's
former
stupid.
FBI director, right? This is not some... And there's been other, we're not just picking on James Comey, I'm not. There's been other Republicans that said 86-46, and nothing ever happened to them. There's been very prominent people. It's just, in a position like Comey, you can't do stuff like this. And
Yeah, it means to put somebody in the circular file, crap can them.
yeah, I mean, Kash Patel, who's FBI director, said he was going to investigate Comey for this. I think Pam Bondi said he was up under investigation.
Cash said that falls under the realm of the Secret Service, but the FBI will be there to do anything they need. Pam Bondi chirped in. Tulsi Gabbard.
And then Comey said, I didn't realize some folks associated those numbers with violence. He added, it never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down. He knew exactly what it meant. This guy's not an idiot.
I just don't think it rises to overt threatening of a sitting president or anybody for that matter. But it is tasteless, it's classless, and it just killed any possibility of him having a political career moving forward.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah, thank goodness. I never liked the guy anywhere, but he's done.
No, he lurch. Yeah, no, I've never liked him. I thought he was smarmy. To begin with, I didn't like him, but I think it was childish. It was stupid, and he got caught up in this beyond middle age idea of trying to seem cool, trying to seem hip.
Yeah, right.
And it's not cool, it's not hip, and you're 60-something years old. Stop. If you want to have a substantive debate about why you don't like Trump or why you think he needs to be removed from office, fine, have that debate. You're an attorney. Use your words.
Very true.
So, all right. So, consumer sentiment slides in the second to the second lowest ever.
Yeah, it's so strange because, we talk about the stock market a lot, but the stock market tanked when Trump announced tariffs. It has since come back, and it's almost the same as it was before. What do they call that day? I can't remember. That day he announced tariffs gets got a name. But anyway, the stock market's come all the way back. The job market is still booming. Unemployment is still low. But consumer sentiment has slid to its second lowest level ever. So, and to make this make sense, it dropped from 50.8. I don't even know what these numbers mean. From 52.2, it just means consumers are feeling less optimistic about the economy at this point. And I don't know if you saw this week, but Walmart also said they're going to start raising prices because of the tariffs that Trump implemented. And some of this stuff could be behind too. I mean, a month ago, if these numbers are from a month ago and the stock market's down and things are looking less rosy.
Yeah, a lagging indicator.
Yeah, this could definitely be a lagging indicator. But because since then, some of these tariffs have gone away. U.S. and China announced a 90-day pause on most tariffs between the countries. There's been a lot of stuff done. And
on the first story, with all those business moguls that were traveling with Trump, when he started shaking hands with the folks in the Middle East and getting all these investments, stock market shot up. So there's no way that's represented in these numbers.
No, so I think this is probably a lagging indicator. I do think some of these numbers are probably from 2-3 weeks ago when the tariffs came out. But you also can't say that prices are not going up at this point. And then Congress is, they're debating this whole big, beautiful bill that Trump wants to push through that goes back and makes permanent tax cuts from the first time he's in office. I don't know how they're going to get all the representatives online or all the Republicans. Democrats have already dug in and said they're not voting for this bill. I have no clue how the Republicans are going to get everybody in line to vote for this bill. And even the Senate, who to me usually makes less sense than the House, is saying, why don't we just pass 10 to 15 small bills that are very targeted one to do the tax cuts, one to do this, one to do that. But the House thinks they have to put together this 2,000 or 3,000 page bill, which I just don't get it. Like, why?
Nobody reads.
Nobody reads it. And the Senate is finally making sense of saying, why don't y'all just pass a bunch of small bills, bring them over to us, and let us debate the small bills versus this big, huge monstrosity.
The big, beautiful bill.
Yes, it is big and beautiful. Yeah, I was gonna say there's so many different factions of the. I was listening to CNBC this morning. So the salt tax is a big thing right now that's holding everybody up. So this salt tax is just state and local taxes that used to be uncapped in how much you could take off, which benefits all these. It benefits California, New York, New Jersey. Basically, it has really high property tax. So you used to be able to take all that property tax off. That was capped years ago. And now this bill that's coming back through is trying to get rid of some of those caps and make the caps a lot larger. I think it's $30,000. The congressman from those states wants to make it $40,000. Think of that they're paying $40,000 in property taxes a year. But there's just so many different factions.
Here's the thing is the other factions are places like Florida, Georgia, feel that by doing that, they're subsidizing.
It's a giveaway to the rich Democrats and Republicans in those states. Yeah, it's a handout to Democrats is what it is.
So I favor the Senate approach. I don't think any bill should be more than 10 pages.
No, I agree. Yeah, totally. At any level of government. Yeah, I agree.
If you can't tell me what this does in 10 pages, every bill should be easily readable by anybody who graduated high school. You know, they used to say newspapers were written on a third or fourth grade level because back then that was a lot of times that was the highest education that people would get before going to work on the farm.
Yep.
So newspapers were written in such a way they could be read by a third or fourth grader, which now is equivalent of a high school diploma. So it should be easily readable by a high school graduate. It should be no more than 10 pages. These 2,000, 10,000 page bills, no one voting on it reads it.
No, they don't.
This was advice to a friend of mine when I worked on his campaign, that he was going to make a campaign promise to read every bill. And one of the other reps came to him and said, don't do that because you can't.
Yep, I agree.
You can't read every bill. Because even if you read the original bill, even if you wrote the original bill, by the time it goes into the sausage grinder and comes back to you to vote, it's completely different. And you don't have time to read it before it's being pushed in front of you, especially in state politics where you have crossover day and you're under the gun.
Yep.
But even at the federal level, when you have these 2, 3, 4, $5,000 page bills, there's no physical way a representative could read that bill. Hell, you can't even get them to stay awake till 5 o'clock in the morning during a meeting, during a hearing. That was a funny video, though. And look, I get it. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm dozing off, too. I just... Someone needs to lead the Republicans. And I don't mean you have to do what I say. I mean follow my example.
Right.
And leading is not commanding. Leading is getting out front and saying, follow me. And somebody on the Republican side needs to say, follow me. Let's break these bills down. No more than 10 pages. That's it. If you can't say what you need to say in 10 pages, going away. The reason they love these giant 5,000 page bills is because there's such BS hidden in them to buy off this rep or buy off that senator. They put all this little pork barrel spending in there just so they can start getting votes. Either vote on the principle of the bill or don't.
I agree.
Stand on principle for once in your damn lives. Now, this is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories at thegeorgiavirtue.com. I came up with the mule this week, and it's Stephen A. Smith.
What an idiot.
Now, look, Stephen A. Smith makes his money by pissing people off.
Yeah, men on the wrong side of most every issue.
So Cooper Flagg is the best player in the 2025 NBA draft. That's just a fact. He's from Duke. He's white. So Stephen A. Smith agrees he's the best, but he says race matters in this. And this is the same guy that said that Caitlin Clark was drafted because she's white. You know, these kids can ball. And it's such an insult because you and I are the same age, so we kind of came up during Jordan, and how many white kids were running around with 23 jerseys? You know, how many kids were talking about Jordan and trying to emulate Jordan, even hanging their tongues out when they're trying to make plays, and you know how many. I watched my nephew who plays baseball try to emulate Ronald Acuna, who's from Venezuela. He doesn't base it based on race, and fans aren't doing that. And I remember back in the first part of the 2000s, kind of, you know, remarking how wonderful it was that race was becoming not an issue, especially in sports, when I saw a black kid wearing a Tim Tebow jersey.
Yeah, right.
And how many Georgia fans are out there, white Georgia fans, that wore jerseys from black players? Of course they did, because they admire the play. They admire the player and the way the player played the game. Had nothing to do with race. But Stephen A. Smith feels the need to inject race into every conversation when it's not about race. Larry Bird was a white guy. He was a hell of a player. And you can't take that away from him. And so much that I'll tell you before the show that Larry Bird would chirp at the other bench if he had a white guy guarding him. Like, you can put this white boy on me, I'm going to score on you all night long.
Yep.
And it's insulting to the game itself. And I'm not a big basketball guy. You know, I pay attention when, you know, obviously when my Gators are in the tournament, and I pay attention when the Hawks are good, which is very rare. But other than that, I'm not somebody who just turn on a basketball game on a Thursday night just to be entertained.
Yeah, me either. Now we'll watch a little bit of the playoffs, and I did watch Cooper Flagg when he was with Duke this year. I mean, I thought he was an incredible player, and I think he's going to Dallas. He definitely is. I used to about trading him to another team and all that stuff. No, he's going to Dallas, and Dallas has already got a pretty good team behind him, so it'll be fun to watch Cooper Flagg play next year. And he is some kid I like watching play.
Little inside basketball here. The fact that the Mavs got the number one pick lets us know that the NBA draft is rigged.
Yeah, because they had a 1.8% chance, I think, of getting a number one draft.
I mean, look at the Hawks. You don't think the Hawks could use them? Now, of course, the Hawks would probably draft the poor kid and ruin him. At least the Mavs would use him, and he might get a ring.
Yep.
All right, so Moody's downgraded the U.S. credit rating.
Yeah, this kind of piggybacks off that story we were talking about earlier with consumer confidence down. But yeah, Moody did downgrade a credit rating. It's not a big downgrade. It's just it went down one notch from AA1 to AAA, which honestly is the highest possible. But what was interesting is they cited this based on the growing federal government's budget deficit and the rising cost of this existing debt we've got amid higher interest rates. So they're just saying, look, there's a bunch of stuff on the horizon out there. The U.S. is in a bunch of debt. We've got higher interest rates. We've got these big deficits every year. And even with Trump this year, if they pass this big, beautiful bill, we'll still have a $2 trillion deficit this year. It's not like Republicans are slowing down spending at all. So that was kind of the background of this downgrade.
No, they don't slow spending. They differ spending.
Yep. No, and look, the only way to cut spending is they've got to touch all these social programs. Well, they've got to touch two things. Trump said it this week. We're spending a He had a really good quote over, I think it was in Saudi Arabia, and I'll butcher it if I try to say it, but he said, basically we spend $1 trillion a year on the military now, so we keep the world in check. But that $1 trillion is a big chunk of money, along with Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. If they don't touch those programs, not necessarily in the military, but if they don't touch those other programs, and that's why you've heard over the last week that Democrats said people are going to start dying if this bill gets passed. What they're trying to do is put work requirements in, like Georgia has done, to get Medicare, of saying you've got to be out looking for a job to get free health care. And Democrats are saying, well, people are going to die if we do that. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Or contribute in some other way.
Yeah, or contribute in some ways. But, Democrats are saying people are going to die if we touch Medicare or Medicaid.
It's such an old
it's getting tired.
Chestnut.
And I just don't know what they think needs to happen long term. I mean, these entitlement programs have to be cut back.
What year was the commercial where they put the old person in the wheelchair and just roll him off a cliff? Was that 88?
I don't know. I can't remember.
It was old. I mean, it's. I think it was 1988 when Dukakis was running, and they were talking about pushing old people off a cliff. Going back to the Reagan years, they're talking about old people having to eat dog food because they couldn't afford real food, without the realization that dog food is actually more expensive per ounce than a can of Spam.
That's pretty funny.
But these things go back 40 years. That's just within my memory. It's got to go back further than that. It probably goes back to LBJ and the Great Society, or back even further to the 40s and the 30s with FDR and a chicken in every pot. These arguments are 100 years old, and we have yet to see the streets lined with old people's bodies stacked up because they could not afford food.
Yes, that's just not happening.
There aren't bodies stacked up because old people could not get health care. If you want to see that, go look at a socialist country. Go look at rationing of health care in a socialist country. Capitalism is the cure to that. Letting doctors make money and creating a system in which the elderly can use vouchers and shop their business out. That is the solution.
I agree. Preaching to the choir.
I know, brother. As we're running, about to run long, you have any closing thoughts?
No, I've got a little trip to D.C. this week, so I think it's a work trip, but I think I'll go by the Capitol and see what's going on with this Senate race. I've got a couple of good friends up there that are chief of staff, so I'm going to go by and get the inside skinny. We've only had we had John King announce he's running for Senate since Kemp didn't announce he's running. And we've had the congressman down in the 1st District. And that shows me how much...
Buddy Carter?
Buddy Carter, how popular he is. I can't remember his name. But, I'm going to go to D.C. and get the inside information on who else is going to jump in this race, especially after MTG says she wasn't going to run. So it's going to be... I think everybody's kind of waiting on this state convention to come up in a couple of weeks to announce. But, yeah, I mean, they got to get going pretty soon.
Well, I tell you, that should be fun. Just don't ask them out to dinner, or else you're going to buy. Real quick, one of the things I saw, I love watching Gutfeld. He finds the funniest stuff. There's a bill about sexual assault in schools, in public schools in Texas. And basically what this bill does is it allows individuals to sue schools that don't report when they're required to, who turn a blind eye to this sort of stuff. So a Democratic representative, this is in the State House, says, Mr. Moore, would you explain why private schools who accept government vouchers are not included in this bill? He just deadpanned, because they can already be sued. I know, I've sued a few of them. And she has this dumb look on her face and goes, okay, and walks away from the podium. one of the funniest things I've seen in politics, besides Hank Johnson asking if we put too many planes on Guam, if it's going to capsize. If you remember that one.
I do.
So, on those notes of idiocy, big thank you to Eric Company, our editor, and thank you, Eric, for indulging us with getting this to you so late. To Ken pulling my part in this endeavor, I'm Dave Roberts. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.